Joining me now at the table, Senior Advisor to Bernie Sanders, Faiz Shakir, my partner, my friend from the weekend, Symone Sanders Townsend. You saw that big smile on my face? Yes, she paid me for that. And former Senior Advisor to House Speakers Paul Ryan and John Boehner, Brendan Buck. I've been excited about this grouping all day long because, as you could tell from the lead-in, there's a lot of the political dynamics married up with the opportunistic ones. And I think I want to start with, Faiz, with you, because these events with the senator, we were talking a little bit before, they're growing. There's almost like campaign style and feel to them in terms of the energy that folks have coming out. Tell us what that's like and what you're hearing specifically from people in a red district. Presumably not everyone in the room is a Democrat, right? So what are you hearing and seeing out there?
Well, the Senator's now hit 5 districts, congressional districts that have been currently held by Republicans. They're purple districts, but held by Republicans. And each of them, we are outdrawing thousands of people, outdrawing our peak of 2020. So we ran for president in 2020, and the numbers here right now are higher than we've ever seen before. And it's telling you something. I think in my mind, I have Bernie Sanders holding a stethoscope up to the Democratic Party and saying, hey, listen to this, the heartbeat of America out there. People are angry and frustrated, and the Musk takeover of government, I promise you, is top of mind for so many people. They find it abhorrent of their values, and they are urging Democrats to stand up and do something and fight for it.
Is it, Symone, do you think it's just the Musk takeover of the government? We've had this ongoing conversation on the weekend. There's a clear grassroots push and pull that's going on here. The push is by the grassroots trying to pull elected officials to hear what they're having to say. Is it more off of Trump's actions or Musk at this point? How do you read this moment?
Well, I guess I would say Donald Trump's actions and Elon Musk's actions are one and the same. You know, the president keeps saying, oh, I've delegated to Elon, and Elon's like, oh, the president's in charge. So he does have to own what Musk is doing. And I would like to remind everybody that Russell Vought is actually the architect of all of it. I think with Senator Sanders and other Democrats were out in full force this weekend, which, you know, I've been very hard on my Democratic friends over the last couple of weeks. I would argue rightfully so. And I was glad to see the Democrats out and about talking to the voters to hear from them directly. I think what Senator Sanders is tapping into, though, is a frustration that people have and a want to be heard. One of the things that he launched his tour in my hometown, North Omaha, Nebraska. And I just would like to note, he did this thing where he asked people to yell out what frustrated them. And let me tell you, Bernie Sanders, I know he is not trying to have a little chit chat at his rally, but he did. He told people to shout out, and then he responded to them. And to me, that says that the temperature at this moment is that people feel like they're not being heard. Now, you can have qualms about, his crowd seemed mostly white. That's fine. People are coming out to hear Bernie Sanders in that capacity. Black and brown crowds might come out somewhere else, although the black women will say, we voted for not Donald Trump, so don't call us. But there is something there.
We did our work.
That, black women be like, well, we did our work, 92% checking in here. But there's something happening there. I don't know if it will translate to Democratic votes writ large, but it does say that people need to pay attention.
So Brendan, on that last point, because, we don't need to build this up into something more than it is at this point in the political cycle, which we're in. A lot of people don't realize that. Big elections this November for both Democrats and Republicans in New Jersey and Virginia. So there are some lessons to be learned from what both of these fine people are saying. You're looking at this from the GOP perspective. You're talking to leaders in the party, current and former. What are they saying about what they're hearing? They've been instructed, the elected ones at least, not to hold town hall meetings anymore. Yeah. That's a boneheaded idea from my perspective, because this is a moment to lean in and justify the action as opposed to run away from them. Where do you think Republicans are right now, and what do you see as, at this moment for them, a vulnerability, big or small?
Yeah, well, I think it's important, as you did, to separate two things. One, the sort of long-term, midterm, politics, but also the shorter term. They're trying to pass an agenda, and in the political environment in which they're trying to pass it makes a big difference. We know, and you ask where they're most vulnerable, they've considered enormous cuts to Medicaid, which I think is a huge problem for Republicans right now, not just because it's politically potentially unpopular, but because I don't think that they can pass it. So we have a situation where the majority or the large share of the spending cuts they want to do are in Medicaid, and certainly in the House anyway. You have a bunch of states and senators who are never in a million years going to walk themselves into that trap.
Right.
Let's talk about West Virginia, where more than a quarter of the state's population is on Medicaid. You think the 2 GOP senators from West Virginia are going to vote for that to gut Medicaid? They're not. So you're going to end up in a situation where you have a bunch of conservatives who are saying, why aren't we cutting more? And a bunch of sort of moderate or senators who are saying, hold on a second, we're not doing that. You're going to make nobody happy. And that's the worst thing. And we could see a situation where we kind of get stuck. I think the House and the Senate are about to get stuck. And you start a narrative where you can't actually get anything done, where all this other chaos is going on. And it's not a good environment for legislating.
That's actually an excellent point. I was having that particular conversation today about not in terms of being stuck, because that's the end point, but in this confluence of events coming between the House and the Senate, Republicans, and the realities on the ground in places like West Virginia versus some other places in the country where they may be a little more free to have this, oh yes, let's do a little dance with Medicare and Medicaid.
In addition to some of the districts that Brendan was talking about, you take David Valadao, Republican member of Congress. He's in California, the Central Valley, tons and tons of Medicaid recipients, maybe the highest percentage, actually, Medicaid recipients in that district. Ken Calvert's right next door, another Republican, huge numbers. Mike Johnson's own district in Louisiana, huge percentages. So, obviously Medicaid and all of it does. Well, what does it do? Nursing home, child care. These are things that are essential to people's lives. These people have working at McDonald's on Medicaid. You're working at Amazon and you're on Medicaid. You're working at Tesla in California and you're on Medicaid. Right. I mean, so these are working poor, and this is a lifeline for them. So in addition to Medicaid, though, then you've got Musk saying openly, I'm going to cut Social Security offices all over this country. I'm going to cut veterans offices all over this country. We're underplaying how much that is doing, because this is a different way of dismantling those essential government services, National Park Services all over the country. He's just killing off them, not by just the budget slash, by saying there's no people to work there.
Right.
It's so interesting because you would think, just given the numbers that you both have laid out and the realities, it's like, well, how are Republicans seriously considering going on with cutting Medicaid? But I've come to the conclusion that a lot of people in the country, they don't believe what we're saying is actually happening. They don't actually think they're going to cut Medicaid and they're going to cut Social Security. Matter of fact, when we talked about this on our show this weekend, all of the comments, I don't believe the comments on Twitter, sorry guys, but I do believe what they say on Facebook and Instagram and the people in my email inbox. Those are real people, more real than the bots on Twitter. Or the site formerly known as Twitter. And people are like, you are lying. That is not true. Don't lie. These Democrats and Michael Steele are lying. And I'm like, oh my goodness, y'all don't, oh, okay. You think we're making it up. Right. They are serious. Elon Musk did an interview today on Fox, and he's like, yeah, these entitlements, I mean, if we really want to cut, that's what we got to do.
To be clear, one, I don't think Medicaid is sacred. I think you probably can. I'm a conservative. I think there's probably some room to cut. But I don't think they're going to be able to execute. This is my point. I don't think they're going to be able to execute these sweeping cuts that they're talking about. And they're going to have a bunch of members who say, this is our one opportunity to cut spending. And then the political reality is going to set in, and they might not be able to get much of anything done.
And that's the key thing right there. That the political reality is what is being defied and denied by a lot of Republicans right now. And it will be those common sense Republicans who kind of jerk the party back into that reality more so than I think they realize.